Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining. I'm going to wait a few minutes while we let a few people join. But we are so happy to have you here to talk about Egypt today. Just give us 20 more seconds, and then we'll get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome. Welcome. Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. We are excited that you are here today. This is the first presentation of our new live presentation series on the horizon. I am your host, Sarah Kramer. You may have seen me if you follow us on Facebook or on Instagram. I've popped up a few times on there. I may have even worked with you in the past on one of your trips. So I am here today with my co-host, Tiffany Dunn. And our destination specialist, Nicole Porto. On the Horizon is meant to keep you informed. We started this presentation series because we've had a ton of people interested in travel, but with all the restrictions and unknowns in place, it can be a little bit overwhelming and daunting. So as the leading tour operator, we wanted to create a community where you could come and get your questions answered without going full force into a request. This is just to keep you informed and up to date on what's going on. At the end, we will have time for questions, but if you feel led, please type them into your question box and we will answer them at the end. I have been with Ker Downey for 10 years now. I started out in sales and then I've transitioned into marketing. So I've done a little bit of everything with Ker Downey. And Tiffany, how are you? Good to see you today.
Yeah, good to see you too. I have also been with Ker Downey for about 10 years and came here kind of in a roundabout way. Started off in a career in architecture and then took some time off to travel, and then thanks to some great connections made in college, decided to make a career out of the travel business. So I've been at Ker Downey for 10 years. Also kind of started off working on trips to Africa. I have possibly worked with you as well on a trip before. And yeah, just love traveling and being able to facilitate that for you guys.
Great. We are glad you're here. So today on the presentation, we're talking with, as I mentioned, Nicole. Nicole has been with Ker Downey for 12 years. She specializes in Africa and the Middle East, but she has also traveled to many other places. There are several people in our company, but those off the beaten path sort of destinations that aren't your typical place, she probably has been there. Like she just went to West Africa last year, which was a huge eye-opening experience for all of us, and now we all want to go. So Nicole, tell us a little bit about yourself.
So yeah, I've been with Ker Downey 12 years. This is like Tiffany, I kind of came around a roundabout way getting here, but I mean, travel has always been my passion. So yeah, this job is just like a dream come true.
Yeah, no, it's great. Okay, so Egypt kind of has gone through this weird cycle. It was like booming as a destination in, before 2012. And then we saw it went through a pretty turbulent time in their government. And then it saw a resurgence in 2017. And in 2019, it broke through as one of the top 20 places, which I would say probably before 2013, it was like top 5 places. I felt like there were so many people going to Egypt. And then they just had, just a little bit of turbulent times and tourism essentially halted there. But they had climbed their way back up until COVID hit. So today we're going to hopefully answer some of your questions about what it's like to travel there. Let's start out by asking the simple question of when is the best time to travel to Egypt, in your opinion, Nicole?
So I think anytime starting from like late October, probably through April is going to be good weather-wise. Being there over the holidays is amazing though. I mean, can you imagine being on the Nile on Christmas or New Year's? So that's definitely one of my favorite times to be there.
If you go in the summer, is it like really, really hot, like the summer in the United States? Is it really hot in Egypt, like unbearable hot?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be probably, I mean, it wouldn't be a surprise for it to be over 110 degrees in the middle of the day. A lot of the temples and pyramids, there's not very much shade, so it is pretty warm.
Yeah, when we went in early September, and I would say as a Texan, that was bearable heat.
Yeah.
For someone coming from a cooler climate, especially because there are so many outside destinations without shade, it can get quite steamy.
Yeah, I was there in March, and I was looking back at my pictures, and I had a sweater on, a light sweater on, and I've layered, and so I would take it off in the middle of the day. And I do remember being out where the temples were, and there's just no shade, and it did get quite hot. But March was a fabulous time to go. We loved it. So I think when people think about Egypt, everyone kind of does the same thing. You do the pyramids, you do King Tut's tomb. You might do the Museum of Antiquities, which is opening up soon, hopefully. But what are some of the other places that you would recommend to make Egypt a more unique experience? Maybe for the first time traveler to Egypt, but maybe it's your second or third time and you want to do something different. What would you recommend?
Yeah, so there's a couple of oases that are scattered throughout the country. There's one that's about like 10 hours drive from Cairo. There's one that's about 3 hours from Cairo. And they're these really neat little enclaves of a completely different culture. Some of the oases are man-made, some are natural, but the people that live there are different than your native Egyptian. They're sometimes Bedouin culture or something. So you get really a completely different experience out of it. And really something really unique that not everybody is going to do. And then also, like, Alexandria is one of my favorite cities in Egypt. It's there on the coast. It's got a really, really neat vibe. Its own history that's not really pyramid temple. It's got a lot to do with Alexander the Great and Cleopatra. So I love that one. And then also, if you're into diving, Sharm el Sheikh and Hurghada are some of the best coral diving in the world.
I do diving in Alexandria too, right?
Yeah. In Alexandria, you can actually even dive in the, like, among the ruins of the Lighthouse of Alexandria, which is pretty incredible.
We had an itinerary that was featured in National Geographic a few years back that featured that dive, and I am not a diver, but that itinerary with those images up there near Alexandria made me want to become a diver because it's so incredible, like so incredible what you get to witness. Yeah. It's also, Egypt is also, there's this sort of new trend in travel that's come about because of COVID-19, in that it's basically called one country destination. So you've probably heard, you might want to visit 3 countries in 10 days or whatever. As a custom travel planner, we do that. You can visit as many countries as you want in the number of days that you have. But in light of COVID-19, speak a little bit about why Egypt is that one country destination that would be good to kind of do right as we enter into this post-pandemic travel season.
Yeah, I mean, well, the basic Egypt itinerary, if somebody's doing the best of, is about 7 nights. So if you're doing a 10, 12, 2-week trip, you can do so much more in the country that, like, maybe you would not have thought about before. So maybe visit one of the oases, maybe spend 3 or 4 days at the beach at the end, or the oases have great, like, outdoor stuff, hiking and like sand, like dune bashing and whatnot.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there's really tons to do that I think typically people will either do just your basic Egypt and then combine it with Jordan. But if you're going to stay there the whole time, there's such a variety of things that you can do.
Yeah, and when I went, I really felt like I was with 6 people, and I really felt like there was something for everybody. Someone who was into history, someone who was into just travel and being and experiencing new places, into food, into lounging or spa or whatever. I felt like Egypt sort of had everything for all ages, you know, and that's what makes it, I think, a good one country destination too.
Yeah, and I just think that the one country destination is kind of an exciting trend in travel, especially for North Americans who tend to try and pack it all in a short amount of time. And not just for Egypt, but for so many countries, I think it'll allow travelers to see a country in a lot more depth than they may have never seen if they tried to combine. I know for me personally, like I combined Egypt and Jordan, and it was amazing, and I saw some great highlights, but I feel like I need to go back to both countries now to see more because I didn't get to see it all. So I think that's a really exciting trend and a good thing that's come out of this COVID crisis. It's just simplifying, you know, our time away and hopefully getting the time to see the country in more depth, but also to slow down and take the time to actually relax a little bit while on vacation.
Yeah.
I agree. I think that's going to be a great thing. Okay, so one thing that's probably on everybody's mind is space for next year, or maybe it's not. Maybe they're not even thinking about this. But what we've seen is that everybody that has to postpone their trip into 2021, we as travel planners are getting a little bit nervous that space is going to fill up, especially in those festive seasons, way quicker than normal if you've had to push a trip back. So what advice would you give those who are possibly sitting on the fence about travel? They're maybe waiting to see what's going to happen, especially in terms of Egypt and planning ahead. What advice would you give someone that's in that position?
Yeah, well, I mean, the country is actually opening up. So, I mean, travel is going to be possible towards the end of this year. And then starting next year, it had already been rather full for 2021. So if you were wanting to do Christmas of 21, I would get that booked so quickly because everything that had been transferred from this year is now kind of completing the bookings for next year. So it is important to, you know, get that nailed down. I mean, we can always move it if things are weird, but the space is definitely becoming a huge issue.
That I've seen that, and Tiffany could probably speak to this a little bit more, but just in terms of our partners that we've been working with on the ground, the flexibility in just people wanting to, just our partners wanting to get people traveling again. So the flexibility in, especially with insurance now covering, you know, COVID in a particular way, and then flights, you know, no penalties for changing. All these things are coming out that are making it so easy to travel right now that I just feel like people should take advantage of. I mean, wouldn't you agree, Tiffany? That
yeah, there's definitely a lot of flexibility with people that already have trips booked and confirmed. And for those that are looking to book a trip, there are all kinds of, you know, extra circumstances that can be extended given, you know, the uncertainty and the fact that, you know, everyone recognizes that things can change quickly. And ultimately, what's most important is that we facilitate that trip for you, no matter when or how that has to happen. So there are a lot of great things about booking a trip now. And yeah, the space, I cannot reiterate enough how limited availability is for pretty much every destination next year. So if you have any trip in mind, whether it be Egypt or anything else for 2021, I would definitely get it on the books and do it with at least that reassurance that you have some flexibility if something does come up. And just because you mentioned the insurance, I will, you know, every insurance company is different. I know the one that we offer, it does cover if someone were to say test positive and not be able to take their trip because they tested positive or they got sick while they were in country. It would cover medical and evacuation if that became necessary. So yeah, good things to have there all around for your trips in the future.
Yeah, for sure. So I think too, Egypt has kind of been the forefront on, safety measures and putting things in place super quickly right after COVID became just a worldwide pandemic. Can you speak to some of the things that they are doing currently to ensure the safety and well-being of their travelers? And then also, just if there's any restrictions, like how you would get there, what's in place?
Yeah. So some of the things that they've done to get ready, I mean, all the hotels that we use have been like now certified, COVID certified in terms of their cleanliness. And then like at the airport, the experience is a bit different, like no touch machine check-in, space between kiosks and everything. And then, our vehicles and everything, we provide like sanitization pack, hand sanitizer and all that stuff. So the hotels are great. The cruises are in the process of applying for their, to be open with certification. But all the all the sites are open, and the sites are going to be open at sort of limited capacity. So you're not crowded with thousands of people at the pyramids, which makes this, traveling in this time is a little bit, everybody's nervous about it, but this is kind of a small advantage, is that you will be getting a lot of these sites more to yourself.
I went in 2013 right after all the stuff happened with their government. Yeah. And there was literally, we had the pyramids to ourselves. We had King Tut's tomb. There was not a person. We had Ramses up to ourselves. Like, it is amazing to go there.
Yeah.
When there's nobody there, because, I feel like the first half of the year is you're going to get that, if you go January, February, March, when the weather's still great, you're still going to get fewer numbers of people there, which is just another reason to go.
Yeah, and another thing too to keep in mind is with all of our Egypt trips, you have a private Egyptologist that accompanies you throughout the entire trip. So you're not interacting with different guides like every few days or a different driver. You'll always have, the same guide accompanying you. And that even goes for the cruises. When cruises do start to operate again, we, rather than, sticking with the big group and a guide that comes with the cruise, you will have your private Egyptologist that meets you right off the boat, or sometimes accompanies you on the boat and can take you on those excursions to places before the crowds get there, or go in an opposite, order, so that you can beat some of the crowds when those crowds do resume.
Yeah, and even in your own vehicle, so that you're not getting on like the big shuttle bus with the rest of the cruise people.
Right.
Yeah,
that's so important. I really can't imagine seeing Egypt any other way than with a private Egyptologist. Like, that to me is mind-blowing. Yeah. Okay, so one question when I was a destination specialist, I loved it when somebody asked me this question. So I'm going to ask you, if you had 8 to 10 days in Egypt as an expert, what would you recommend, and what are some of the properties that you would recommend to go to? And if it's like your first time to go to Egypt.
Well, you have to have Cairo, of course. 3 or 4 days at least. The thing about Cairo, the traffic is so awful. So if you've got your day fully packed with pyramids, and there's different areas with the pyramids, so you could be in the car all day long. So if you've got one full day there, you might be in traffic for like a third of it. So if you can give yourself, 3 full days to spread out the touring a little bit more, then you can really spend more time at those sites and less time in the car. So yeah, 3 or 4 days in Cairo, absolutely. And then on the Nile, they do cruises in 3, 4, and 7 night sailings, but I also really love to do the Nile as a land-based program, like staying in a hotel in Luxor for a couple of nights, and then a hotel in Aswan for a couple of nights. And you won't miss anything that you would see on a cruise. I mean, just to like give it perspective, the cruise is like Luxor and Aswan is about 2.5 hours driving by road. And they do this on a 3-4 night cruise, which is like crazy. So you really don't have to be on a boat unless you just really want that iconic Nile cruise experience. But the hotels, so like in Aswan, there's the Sofitel Old Cataract, and in Luxor is the Sofitel Winter Palace. And these are both 5-star, but more importantly, they're like really beautiful historic hotels. So the Winter Palace in Luxor is where like Howard Carter was staying when he discovered King Tut's tomb. And the Old Cataract in Aswan is where Agatha Christie set Death on the Nile. So they're kind of, I mean, if you're a literary nerd like myself, they kind of have like their own draw, aside from the fact that they're just absolutely beautiful hotels with incredible settings.
I like, you know how if you travel quite a bit and you have like, you're accustomed to seeing like gorgeous hotels, but for some reason there's just like that one hotel that sticks out in your mind. The Old Cataract is that for me. Like I could go there for 4 or 5 nights just to sit in that hotel on that veranda overlooking the Nile River. Like that is to me, part of what traveling is, just enjoying the place and it just, I love it so much.
Yeah. Nicole mentioned earlier when you do spend more time in Egypt, that there's an opportunity to visit some of the more off the beaten track places like one of the oasis. And one of the things that Nicole recommended for me when I went to Egypt was to go to the Fayum Oasis. And it was personally one of my favorite properties in Egypt because it's just such a unique experience to anything else in Egypt. And it's only a few hours drive from Cairo, but it's a tiny little property. It's like an estate with 8 rooms, a family estate that's been turned into a property. And you're literally right in the middle of the Fayum village. And so you can walk out and there's little shops. We visited a ceramic shop and bought way too much pottery to take back with us. But it's just such a great little property. And again, when you have the opportunity to stay a little bit longer, you get to see some of those, really special places like that.
That's so true. Yeah, I remember you coming back from Fayum and I was like, okay, on my second trip to Egypt, I'm going to include Fayum, Alexandria, I'll see the pyramids again. It's like one of those places that you can't ever, and they're like discovering new things all the time. I feel like what pops up on my news is that they're always discovering new things. So that just makes it another reason to go back. Plus the opening of the Museum of Antiquities, hopefully next year, I think is an exciting thing to look forward to.
Yeah, and it'll be spectacular.
Yeah, no, it's going to be amazing. So that is all we have for our webinar. I wanted to keep it a little bit shorter, and if you had any questions, we could get to them at the end. Feel free to type them in right now. But before that, I want to say, Nicole, what is the best way to contact you if someone is interested in traveling to Egypt or anywhere in the Middle East or anywhere in general?
Yeah, so our website, you can go to our website and there's the contact information there. You can contact me directly, or if you're already in contact with one of our other designers, they are more than happy to help plan a trip to Egypt as well. So you can give us a call, email.
Yeah, even if you're on the fence and still want some questions answered, it is just a really good time to get those questions answered, even if you're not, maybe you want to plan for next Christmas, which I now want to plan for next Christmas, to Egypt. You can give us a call and we'll be able to answer your questions then. Next webinar, we are going to do Kenya. We have had a tremendous amount of interest in travel to East Africa. They have been the forerunner of post-pandemic travel. They've opened up, we think, in a timely way and have done all the things that they need to do to get travel started in a safe way. Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, they are all open. And so next month, we're going to talk about Kenya. So if you have any questions that you would like answered, please email this luxury@kerdowney.com email address, or if you have my email address, you're welcome to email one of us too, and we'll get those answered. So feel free to do that. So
let's we have some questions here on Egypt as well.
Yes, let's get to those.
Is it possible to get private tours of the new Grand Egyptian Museum prior to its official opening? Not sure if that's changed due to COVID. Also, any evidence from visitors in Egypt prior to getting their COVID results and what they have to do. I imagine visitors take their tests and leave for Egypt before getting results. And results can take more than 72 hours. The one good thing is there are a lot of good testing options out there that are being able to turn around testing within 24 to 48 hours. So that's been a huge help for travelers that are wanting to travel now.
Yeah.
Cool, I'll let you answer the others.
Yeah, so private tours of so because nobody's actually been there lately, and we've not even been able to go until like just very recently, I don't know if this is happening, like the private tours of the gem, but we have such great relationships with a lot of professional Egyptologists, and our office there in Egypt is like, has the best connections. So I think that it's probably something that we could arrange. I mean, we've been able to get private after hours, behind the scenes tours of every single place in Egypt so far. So I don't think that the museum would be a problem. And then, no, we've not had anybody go before their test results come in. So I unfortunately can't answer that.
Yeah. And we are hopeful to get a few people from the office traveling before the end of the year. And we also have had a lot of partners on the ground that have been to Kenya that we've followed along with and been in contact with them every day to kind of see what that's like. So that is forthcoming for a little bit more information on that. But we do trust our partners on the ground to give us the most up-to-date information on what that looks like every day. We're getting information every day on that. Yeah. The next question is, can you describe what a visit to a pyramid is like? Can you go inside, and how strenuous is it?
Yes. So the pyramids, there's a few different pyramids that you can go into, and it is strenuous because it's like a little, like a square tunnel, and they lay like a sort of a ramp with little bars to like but it's very, very steep. So you're kind of going down at quite a steep level, and then you have to obviously climb back up. So and if you're even, I'm short, I'm 5'4", and I still have to like crouch down almost in half to like get through there. So it's pretty claustrophobic. I mean, if you're claustrophobic, there's no way. The good thing about right now, since there's not as many people going, you're not going to have a lot of people in front of and behind you. But you know, in normal times, yes, you've got like people right in front of you, people right directly behind you. So it's a little bit scary because if somebody falls, like you're all just sort of rolling down.
Yeah. And I would just add to, like, I was kind of underwhelmed by the interior visits of the pyramids. So for anyone who's not, who's not able to do that because of mobility or just they don't want to, I think that the most like majestic way to experience the pyramids is obviously from the outside. And so if that's not up your alley, I don't think you're missing.
Yeah, because I mean, the inside, a lot of people, I think, don't know this, but the inside are not really painted and decorated. Like there's some carvings, but not a ton. So you're really just like in a big stone room that might have like a sarcophagus and some carvings, but like the real beautiful artwork, paintings is like in the temples that are not at the pyramids. So like Tiffany said, you're not really missing anything other than just saying that you've been in a pyramid.
Yeah, I would agree with all of that. The next question is Egypt a destination that is easy to get around for someone with mobility issues? It's a great question.
It is not easy to get around. Unfortunately, it's one of those places where a lot of the path paving is uneven, so it's pretty tricky. That said, there are, some temples and some of the sites do have ramps and easier access, so you can definitely see it and go to it. You're probably not going to be able to do all of the, exploring all the nooks and crannies, but you can definitely get a good idea of it, the scale and some of the beautiful artwork. So some of the nicer, paintings and stuff in the temples will be more accessible. And then the hotels are all accessible.
Yeah.
That's not an issue.
Yeah.
It's just, it can be a challenge, but doable.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, so what about the dress code? There was a question about the dress code.
Yeah, so Egypt is a pretty, they're not very conservative in terms of, the rest of the Arab world. Unless you're going into a mosque, you don't have to cover your hair. This is for women. You don't have to cover your hair or wear, long pants or long sleeves or anything like that. The only exception is, of course, if you are going into a mosque, then I always suggest somebody bring a scarf of their own so that you can easily put it on, because otherwise they do have scarves at the front. I bet that COVID has done away with the used scarf business. But yeah, I have forgotten mine from time to time and had to use like a gross scarf from like the communal bin. So I don't recommend that. But in general, I mean, you can wear, I mean, I probably wouldn't wear like short shorts, but you could wear like shorts, dresses. I've worn sundresses and it's fine. I mean, they're pretty liberal in terms of all that.
Yeah, I agree. This next question is great. Is there a definitive opening for the Grand Egyptian Museum?
No.
We wish there was.
Yeah, they have been saying next year for like 3 years. So, and this year they swear it will be next year. But I mean, the videos that I've seen and the feedback of the like updates we've gotten from our office there is like, I mean, it looks pretty much done. They're just, I think recently or just very soon, they're doing a parade of the mummies from the museum downtown to the Gem. They'll be moving them from one museum to the other and doing like a nice, ceremonial parade thing. So they're getting all of this stuff over, but and plus with COVID, I think, a lot of the openings have been even more delayed. So unfortunately, no.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say, I mean, I definitely wouldn't say that is, to me, I would say you kind of have to weigh your what's the right word? Eggs in your, put your eggs in the basket. Like you could go in January, February, March of this year, and you might not get to experience, you might, that would be amazing. But you'd get the fewer number of people, which of all the things in Egypt that I remember most everything, but one of the most impactful things was that I got to see all these things without anybody there. So, so there's just pros and cons to weigh on if you should wait until it's for sure open or not.
Yeah. But the regular museum is amazing and has, has all of the artifacts. So it's, if you don't get to see the Gem, then the Museum of Antiquities is still one of the world's best museums. So
yeah. Okay. The next question is I'm going to say this wrong, and because I'm not in, the smaller boats. We'll just use layman's terms. The smaller boats versus the more cruise boats, the larger boats. Which would you prefer?
Well, I mean, right now, the dahabeah. So a dahabeah is a small Nile boat. It's not one of the big cruise steamboats. It's going to be a smaller, 4 or 5 cabins maybe, and they're available for private charter. So right now, that's a great option if you are, you know, concerned about being around a lot of people. It's fantastic because you've got your own crew, your own dining. It's just for you and your family. So that's great. The only thing about them is that they do operate on longer cruise schedule. So they don't do like the 3 or 4. They're usually like a 5, anywhere from like 5 to 6 days. But they are able to get to some areas that the bigger cruise boats don't really stop at. So it's kind of a more intimate experience, and you do see some places that are a little bit more off the beaten path, and they're able to dock up in some places that that are kind of unique. Like you can shore up on like these little village islands and stuff versus being, you know, 8 ships deep at the Luxor or at Few here.
Right. Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, and I went on a big cruise, but I saw the little ones and they're great. I mean, if I had more time, and the next time, that's what I would want to do too. I mean, it's pretty great how you can just do your family cruising down the Nile. Okay, so when is the latest you'd recommend booking for the 2021 holiday season? Particularly interested in the Nile cruise.
Yeah, I mean now, because everything, I mean, hopefully everything for this holiday season will still be able to go. If not, then they're going to move that all to next year. So already 2021 holiday was, you know, getting up to capacity. So it really depends on what happens in the next couple of months, whether or not all the is going to be moved over. But I mean, even people who were traveling earlier this year decided to, you know, take advantage and move to next holiday season. So I would say the sooner the better.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I would say even we're in September. I mean, I would say now is a great time if you're interested in next year. I mean, definitely if you're kind of one of those last minute itching to go, sort of check to see if there's space this year. Because you know, everyone's still riding the fence, but next year I think is going to be critical just to get started as soon as possible. Okay, the last question. Nope, I have 2 more questions. You talked about other hotels in Egypt. In Cairo, any comments on hotels? So what are some of your favorites in Cairo? Maybe go, you know, a couple different, like the Four Seasons, I know would be up there. And then
we use the Four Seasons a lot, and in Cairo there are 2 Four Seasons. There's the Nile Plaza and First Residence, and they're both really beautiful. Those have generally been our preferred properties for years. The service is obviously fantastic, Four Seasons all the way. And they're both, you know, just kind of subtly different in terms of design. Both are on the Nile. So you get great views over the Nile, over the city, over the Cairo Zoo. Some of them have pyramid view rooms, although it's generally always pretty hazy, so I wouldn't bank on being able to see the pyramids from there. So either of the Four Seasons are fantastic. Then a personal favorite of mine is the Kempinski Nile. It is a large hotel, it's a Kempinski, but it kind of operates more like a boutique hotel. It doesn't have like a formal check-in desk, so everything is done check-in in room. So it gives you kind of a more like a small hotel feel. Plus they have a Turkish restaurant that is absolutely amazing. Even if you're not staying there, you should definitely go there for dinner. And then like the new Ritz-Carlton is opened, so that one's gonna be amazing, as well as the St. Regis. So the Ritz and St. Regis are the 2 new luxury hotels. And then a lot of people ask about the Mina House, which is over in Giza and is one of the only hotels that's over by the pyramids. So the pyramids are out in Giza, which is a suburb of Cairo. And if traffic is bad, it can take you up to an hour or more to get there. So if you're staying in the city, it's a little bit of a trek to get out there. So if you've got the time and can spend like maybe the first couple of nights in Cairo at the Mina House, that way you're just there, and then do your Nile business and come back and stay in Cairo at a city hotel, the St. Regis or Four Seasons, and see everything that's in Cairo. The Mina House used to be an Oberoi. It is no longer. It's a Marriott now, and it is an older hotel. They have refurbished most of it. It's still, it's 5-star, but it's not of the level of the Four Seasons or anything like that. But its location is the one thing that really recommends it, because the rooms actually do have views of the pyramids, and because it's so close, you can actually see them. And usually if I don't have clients staying there, when they go out to Giza to do their pyramids touring, we'll stop for lunch at the Mina House anyway, just because it's
a great
restaurant for lunch.
Yeah, I agree.
No, I agree. Okay, I think this is our last question. Is Egypt more expensive than previous years, or has COVID reduced the prices?
So like a lot of places, since their tourism has taken a major hit, unfortunately they're not really in a position to reduce prices so much, because they really need the money more than ever. That said, they do offer lots more flexibility. Visa fees are waived for Egypt right now, so that's nice. Some of the entrance fees are a little bit reduced. The hotels and Nile cruises, not quite as much, but I mean, it's still a relatively affordable part of the world. So, I mean, anything from 500 to 1,500 per person per day. So, I mean, even 500 to 800 per person per day will get you a really nice trip, staying in 4 to 5-star properties.
Yeah, and I think just, again, not just for Egypt in particular, but for all destinations, there are some properties that are offering discounts, but for the most part, especially ones that we tend to work with, the boutique properties, the higher level of quality of service properties, they are not offering discounts because they're having to operate on their same level of quality after essentially an entire year of no business. So they can't still deliver that same level of quality if they're just discounting. So one thing too that we have seen is a lot of properties are offering sort of longer stay discounts. So again, if you have the opportunity to stay a little bit longer, this isn't quite as applicable in Egypt, but in some other destinations, if you can stay 5 days and pay for 4, sort of thing. And that's a nice way to get some value into your stay as well.
Yeah.
Right. Yep, I agree. All good things. I think this next season of travel, as we move out of this pandemic world we're living, is going to be exciting, and more than ever, when we're told not that we can't travel, we're going to want to get out there and travel as fast as we can. I know I sure am missing it. So that's all we have for now. As I mentioned before, we're going to be talking about Kenya next, so bring your questions. We would love to answer them when we're on. Be sure to check us out on our social channels, Facebook and Instagram. We'd love to hear about some of your travel memories with Ker Downey or without. Hearing those stories just keep us inspired and looking forward to the next trip. So be sure to do that. We know that navigating travel in this post-pandemic world can be overwhelming, but we know that it doesn't have to be. We want you to feel confident when you travel, so that you are free to experience the world in a whole new way, and just get out there and live life. So join us next time. We appreciate your questions and for joining us. Bye. Nicole, thank you as well.
You're welcome. Bye, guys.
Bye.